In this movie, we're going to discuss the mechanisms for contraction of cardiac muscle, and we're going to consider some novel structural and electrical features of cardiac muscle and the mechanisms by which calcium is released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. This figure shows the heart with the left atrium, the left ventricle, the right ventricle, the pulmonary artery, and the aorta. The right atrium is hidden and is not shown in this figure. Recall that the function of the heart is simply to pump blood throughout the body, and to accomplish this task, when the ventricles contract, all the cardiac fibers have to contract strongly and synchronously. You can see these features as the heart goes through its synchronized cycles of contractions and relaxations. Now in cartoon version. Before turning to the unique features of cardiac muscle, I would like to remind you that in skeletal muscle, each muscle fiber extends the entire length of the muscle. This is shown for the fiber indicated by the arrow. Indeed, cardiac muscle has several structural features that are different from those in skeletal muscle. This slide shows some of the novel structural features of cardiac muscle. The drawing shows the SA node and the atrial muscle fibers, but the ventricular fibers have the same arrangement. The location of the SA node on the right atrium is shown in the drawing of the heart in the upper left of the figure. The first point is that unlike the long skeletal muscle fibers, cardiac muscle fibers are short and stubby. The second point is that unlike skeletal muscle fibers, each cardiac fiber is connected or joined to neighboring fibers by a structure called an intercalated disc. Each intercalated disc is shown as a jagged line separating individual cardiac fibers. The intercalated discs are fundamentally important because they connect neighboring muscle fibers both mechanically and electrically. As shown here, they are composed of two principal features. The first is the desmosome, which is a structural feature that mechanically joins two adjacent fibers. It acts like a glue that binds the two fibers together so that when one fiber contracts, it exerts force on the other fiber. The second feature is the gap junction, which electrically couples one fiber to the next. Gap junctions are also called electrical synapses. An expanded version of a gap junction is shown in this slide. The membranes of the two cells are shown in blue, and the membranes come into close proximity to each other. Inserted in the membranes are open channels, where the ends of the channels in the two membranes abut each other, sort of like two open pipes joined together. Since the channels are open, they allow current to pass from one cell to the next. The red balls represent positively charged ions, such as sodium ions, that readily pass from one cell to the next. Stated differently, the current generated by an action potential in one cardiac fiber passes through the gap junction to evoke an action potential in its neighbor. Thus, the mechanical and electrical coupling afforded by intercalated discs endows the muscle fibers in both the atria and the ventricles with the ability to contract synchronously and thereby produce the forces required to pump blood throughout the body.